Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. What do we have here? Well, it finally happened. Scott Ritter quit being a correspondent of Russia Today and Sputnik. Why? Because he's under investigation from the US by the US government. So Scott Ritter, the former UN arms inspector, he was, if you remember, his house was raided legally with a warrant by FBI in New York, in the state of New York, under the allegations that he failed to register as a foreign agent. And we have, United States of America has that Foreign Agent Act from 1936 or something. But hey, I'm going to contrast and compare that act with the one in Georgia that these guys, and probably you know about, that's the Russian law, which is obviously, again, foreign agent registration law, but because it's from Russia, which had it from 2012, and Georgia enacted it, voted for it democratically, it's the Russian law, not the American law. So we're going to have compare and contrast between what ones are doing and claiming they're doing, and what the other ones, the good ones, are claiming they're not doing, but they're doing. That's the first one. So Scott Ritter was forced to quit, I think, because he might be arrested pretty soon. The other one is coming from Sputnik. That's the Eastern Economic Forum summit occurring in Vladivostok in East Russia, in most eastern Russia, far east, by the Pacific Ocean, by Japan, that area. And over there we have Jackson Hinkle. If you're not familiar with him, he's a courageous guy, smart guy, who is just providing news and assessments in an alternative way, like others do. And he is right now, he's been I think, in Russia for some time. I think he's going to have the same fate, unfortunately, as Scott Ritter, or even worse. Now, he says that it's frightening clampdown on alternative media in the US. All that's left is to jail us. I said that for some time, and it seems like the the signals are heading us towards that goal of those guys in charge of us. Now, Jackson Hinkle is in Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok, and he's going to speak over there and has some interviews over there. I'm going to feature a few statements that he made in this video. Now we have Maria Zakharova, the spokeswoman, smart and tough and beautiful spokeswoman of the Russian Foreign Ministry, and she's saying what we, some of us, already know. US becoming, and I'm quoting, neoliberal dictatorship. That's what she said. And then the last part is going to be discussing the so-called Russian law, the foreign agent law, and I'm going to use open society foundations. That is the Hungarian-born billionaire philanthropist. That's how you have to refer to George Soros. And fantastic person. All right, so we're going to discuss that using their statements, their analysis. And then the other one is the Foreign Agents Registration Act of the United States of America. We're going to discuss that one. So, you know, when Scott Ritter was accused of something and Georgia is accused of something, you go back to hatch. How is that? The chicken come back to roost at the origin. So let's start with Scott Ritter, and I predict he's going to be arrested and he's going to be interrogated or interviewed, however we want to look at it. It's a difference between interrogation and interview, but I think he's going to be interrogated because it's a difference between allegations and accusations. So, Russia Today, 5th of September 2024, Scott Ritter forced to end cooperation with Russia Today. The former UN weapons inspector commented after Washington imposed restrictions on Russian media, they just did. Former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter has announced that the latest US sanctions imposed on Russia Today mean he will no longer be able to contribute to the Russian media outlet. Ritter insisted that his engagement with Russia Today has been nothing but legitimate journalism. A former US Marine Corps major who also served at the US as a United Nations weapons inspector in Iraq during 1990s. Ritter came into spotlight in 2003 when he opposed the US military operation against the Middle Eastern country. He argued that Saddam Hussein's government did not possess weapons of mass destruction despite Washington and London's claims. And possibly the guys in the little 10 million people country in Middle East. In a post on X, formerly Twitter, on Thursday, Ritter stressed that the content of his contributions for Russia Today and several other sanctioned media outlets, and I'm quoting, has been factually correct and analytically sound and always on my own creation. While condemning Washington's decision as running counter to, and I'm quoting, constitutional norms and values, Ritter noted that he is fully committed to obeying US law, and as such will be terminating all contractual relationships with Russia Today and Sputnik effective immediately. He expressed gratitude to his Russian colleagues for their, and I'm quoting, professionalism, and vowed to continue to exercise my free speech rights as a journalist free from government influence and control. The US government, the DOJ, these guys, not the DOJ, the US government, DOJ is part of the US government, they sanctioned Simonova, the woman in charge of Russia Today and many others outlets, Sputnik and Russia Today in the United States of America. Therefore, he cannot operate anymore. So it's a crackdown on alternative media, or not alternative media in general, that these guys don't like. Why? It seems like they're trying, no, it seems like the goal is to protect our information from being propagandized by the bad dudes, not by the good dudes. You know what I mean? All right. So what else? Here, on Wednesday, the U.S. Treasury Department announced the imposition of sanctions against several Russian media outlets. That's what it is, including Russia Today and a number of its employees. The U.S. authorities accused the media outlet of, I'm quoting, covertly recruiting unwitting American influences in a bid to undermine confidence in the United States election processes and institutions ahead of November. Poop. So here, last month, Ritter accused the U.S. government of committing an act of intimidation and declaring war on him after FBI agents raided his house in New York State. The journalist said at the time that officials suspected him of working on behalf of the Russian government in violation of the U.S. Foreign Agents Registration Act. Right? Right. But let me show you this. Associated Press. What is the newly passed Russian law that has divided people in Georgia for months? Right? And that is, Georgia Parliament has passed a law that critics, some, say as a threat to media freedom and the country's aspiration to join the European Union. Control. Lawmakers defined weeks of large demonstrations, violent. They will try to overthrow the government in the capital that also featured anger at neighboring Russia. Some, yes, it's true, but most of them did not. What does the law do? The law would require media, non-governmental organizations like these guys right here, Open Society Foundations, all right, and other nonprofit register as pursuing the interest of a foreign power if they receive more than 20% of funding from abroad. Okay, this is it. All right, let's go back to Scott Ritter from Sputnik. Scott Ritter says ending cooperation with Russia Today, Sputnik, due to U.S. sanctions. All right, let's see what this is all about. So you got this here is about 20% funding. We have Open Society, the troubling march of foreign agents laws. And we have here the legislation talking about Georgia, Tbilisi, requires non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and media outlets which receive more than 20% of their funding from foreign sources to publicly register as organizations serving the interest of foreign power and conduct sensitive and onerous reporting requirements. And I say, they start with 2012. They don't start with these guys right here, which are in 1936? Where is this? Yeah, they don't give you in the first, right here, 1938. They don't start with these guys because these guys are the good guys. So let's go back here. Russia 2012, and it says introduction the Russian government in 2012, and that's called the Russian law. That's why they say. And then they go to India, and then they go to Nicaragua, all bad dudes, Kyrgyzstan, and the United States. All right, the United States, what's going on? And the United States, they say, well, the Foreign Agents Registration Act requires certain agents of foreign principals who are engaged in political activities. That's all they say. The new law was enacted, and we have here. This is very important what's going on here. The International Center of Nonprofit Law says the FARA cannot be compared with a legislation specifically designated to restrict NGOs and mass media. And I'm quoting, pay attention, it's so funny. Under FARA, registration is not required simply because one receives funds. Not only because that, more than that, from a foreign source. This ICNL continued. Rather, one must be an agent of a foreign principal, including one of the acts at the direction and control of a foreign agent. Okay, that's one. And then that's available on the other one too. And the Russians. Many US NGOs and media organizations receive foreign grants and other support, but the US has not required them to register as foreign agents under only about 5% of those registered under FARA are non-profit organizations, most branches and blah, 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 blah. And let me show you here. So, and here it is what I was looking for. They require to register with the Justice Department and periodically disclose their activities, receipts, and disbursements. That means money in the support of those activities. It's just a little bit different, isn't it? And we go here to the, obviously to the Americans, and I saw Goebbels somewhere. There you go, the bad dude. But if you read history and you read propaganda, you find out there's someone else in 1923, I think, is not Adolf, who wrote a book about it. And I read the book called Propaganda, not Jacques Ellul, 1962. No. It's one in 1923, if I remember correctly. And look at his background on the guy who wrote that little book. All right. Here is the scope. The Act requires periodic disclosure of all activities and finances by, and I'm saying right here it says, if the Act at the order, request, and under the direction of control of agents of the principal or a person who are controlled or subsidized in major part, major, how much is major? 1%, 20%, 90% by this principal. So remember, these guys have to talk about it. But hey, it's the Russian law. Let's go now to Jackson Hinkle and see what he says. Analysis, Sputnik. Jackson Hinkle on frightening clampdown on alternative media in the US. All that's left is to jailers. I totally agree with that. Right here. Let's have this video. Let's see if these guys are going to let us have it. Oops. Let's go back.
Well, I think it's all happening right before the elections to try and censor dissent before the voting takes place. And I think if Donald Trump were in office, we wouldn't be seeing this sort of crackdown on people. Maybe there'd be a crackdown on pro-Palestine people more if Donald Trump was in office. But, there wouldn't be this crackdown on people who are trying to stop World War III. And that's the biggest issue that there is right now, stopping World War III. What I saw in Zaporozhye proved to me that we are very close to World War III. If any of the missiles that I saw that came so close to hitting the nuclear station actually landed on the nuclear waste or a nuclear reactor, that would have been that. But it's very frightening what they're doing to Dimitri Simes and what they're doing to Scott Ritter. And also, the New York Times ran a publication about the raids on all these people's homes. And the photo that they chose to use as the cover of the story was a photo of me and Scott Ritter on the front of it. And I'm like, they're going to come for me next, maybe, But now I'm in Vladivostok. I'm safe for the time being. I'm happy about that. But no, it's very frightening. We have no free speech. It's people simply dissenting and saying that Russia's not our enemy. We should struggle for peace rather than war. And for that, they... FBI raids their home, takes their personal belongings. I know for Dimitri Simes, they not only took his electronics, but they took precious items from his home. They took the passport of Scott Ritter, so he can't even leave the country. And it's all happening in the context of what? Of this happening on a global scale for the West. Pavel Durov, Richard Medhurst getting arrested in the UK. There was another young fellow arrested in the UK. Danny Shaw, professor from New York, he was interrogated by the FBI this week, temporarily took his passport. The list goes on and on right now of everything that's happened over the past 6 weeks, and they're really trying to crack down before the elections.
Well, what do you think, my friends? And he's safe for the time being. Well, when he returns to the United States of America, that's what's going to happen. This is just what he said during the video. And yeah, they will probably do it. And I'm not surprised whatsoever. Why? I said this many times before. I expect a few knocks or door kicked in. And I'm not trying to make myself, oh my God, I'm so important or something. But if these guys, and I read I will have another video done on this. They are trying to attack they called right wingers, the guys that some have about 120,000 subscribers on YouTube, and they call him that is Russia, blah blah blah. These guys can knock at my door whenever. I give them now more than I used to give before, like 40%. Now I give them 60%. Because if a person so small as me or others, let's put others, a little bit bigger, are attacked, and I'm not talking about Scott Ritter. He's much bigger. It's unbelievable. Remember what they did to, what was his name? The guy who was, the guy who was killed or who died in that Chilean. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. Jesus Christ. Died in Ukraine captivity. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. Jesus Christ, that's embarrassing. I apologize. I couldn't remember Gonzalo Lira. It comes as Lerma, and I know the guy. I mean, it's just anyway. So remember what happened to that guy, and that guy did not have 1 million subscribers or anything like that, but he did something else. Nevertheless, according to these guys, and the problem was he stayed in Ukraine too long, and he didn't leave when he was supposed to. Now let's go to, and I think it's going to be Jackson Hinkle is going to be checked by these guys if he returns to the United States of America. I predict right now proportion 99%. All right, let's go to the next article. US becoming neoliberal dictatorship. The State Department imposed new sanctions on Russian media on Wednesday. Again, it's what they say. The imposition of these new sanctions testifies, and according to the inevitable degradation of the democratic state in the United States and its transformation into a totalitarian neoliberal dictatorship, she said, adding that the news outlets have become a bargaining chip in partisan disputes and the public is deliberately misled by insinuations about mythical interference in democratic processes. So, right here on Wednesday, the Justice, State, and Treasury Departments announced a joint effort to target with sanctions and criminal charges Russian media, including Russia Today. Well, what do you want, my friends? This is the level. I don't need to be intellectually protected. Since I'm an adult, I don't need to, if I'm free. I should be allowed to listen to whomever saying whatever he or she would want and make my own decision based on my abilities. Otherwise, I give the power to an I don't know who that person is, another person to decide what I'm allowed to listen to and what I'm not. Why would I do that? Because you got elected or appointed? No, I disagree with that. That should be out of the question. That should not be an issue in a free society where you have people over there that could possibly, do this, infringe not only our free speech, but the ability to listen to other people. Who are those persons? I disagree. They should not have that authority over us or over this, how should I put it, value, norm, issue. They should not, but they do. And the people who celebrate that, remember, that could be applied to you when they will not like what you say. And if you think that you will always be in accordance to the government's, an agreement to the government's position all the time. Remember, governments are made out of human beings that you don't know. You don't know. Remember, sometimes you get cheated by your girlfriend or by your, I don't know, your spouse or boyfriend, and you thought you know them. What about those guys in the office? You don't know shit about them. You know what the media lets you to know, allows you to know. So again, I disagree. They should be hands off. They should be hands off of this issue of who can propagandize us. And this is another weasel point that these guys are making without knowing they're making it. When we are winning, remember when you have two soccer teams playing, the soccer team that's winning by far is most of the time, allows itself to be with class. Yeah, I let this go. I let you do this. Yeah, shake hands. But if they lose, and they will not be the same classy. That tells you character. The ones that lose and they show class, that shows character. If it's sincere, obviously. So the United States of America had the hegemony, global hegemony of the media all over the place. Remember, before to 1991, and moreover after that, they have a hegemony. And they were called the free media, the American. We were told this in the communist times that they were great. And you could hear what they were saying in Romania, which was very much under the control of the security, right? And they were trying to jam the Free Europe and the Voice of America, which were sponsored by the American government, finance. Yes, go and check it out. And CIA was also involved in that big time. But nevertheless, they had access to us. It was okay to do that, to bombard another country with their propaganda. Why? Because they could. These guys, the communists, could not penetrate their media wavelength and anything like that. They couldn't, because they were, how do you call it, primitive. They couldn't. Now these guys, now they're able. So the Americans were like, free press, everyone. Yes, freedom of speech, everyone. You baboons in the Eastern Europe, you baboons everywhere. We are the example, free media. And they will infect those countries with their free media by buying outlets that were, look at CNN, look at Romanian media, and look at some of main Romanian media outlets, conglomerate, how you want to call them, and you're going to find out somewhere they are subsidiary of the big guys in the United States of America. So they like that kind of free speech when they can influence everywhere and they can propagandize those people with their garbage. But when these guys grew, and now the competition comes like that, or threatened, these guys are not shaking hands anymore, are not so, as I said, no, I'm fair play, I'm good, man, I show class. No, they show who they really are, human beings. That's what they are, like the other guys as well, but they don't like competition, and they try to, and when they, instead of competing, as they like capitalism so much, with a product, bring a better product, no, they try to ban you. Make you illegal, like the communists. There's the same thing the communists did in Romania with the free speech and free media. You didn't have, but Scânteia, and I think another one, what was it, Scânteia, and it was another one, I can't remember, 2 or 3 main newspapers over there, and a TV station that was running 3 hours a day with, 3 hours, I said, a day with propaganda non-stop. Nothing from outside. Why? So we, the Romanians, are protected from the garbage coming from the Western decadent society. They were exaggerating only, right? And then they were protecting us. The same thing these guys are doing. Why? Because they can't compete. The same with the product. Look at the gas and oil in Europe. The Americans made the imbeciles in Europe to sanction themselves because the Americans could not penetrate the gas, or in this case, the gas market in Europe, because they were selling a product at a higher price. They couldn't compete. So the other guys were getting pipe gas from Russia, cheaper and good gas. So they made these guys impose sanctions on themselves, and they did it. Those guys who did it in Europe, those I think should be considered traitors, because the life is going worse in, let's take Germany, which is the most affected country. Volkswagen is gonna fire. I don't know. Is gonna move its companies outside. operations from Germany within a year. Volkswagen, all right? So again, they impose sanctions so they can't compete. So then they came with liquefied natural gas at 3 to 4 times premium price than the Russians were selling. So what, is that capitalism? No, one time you can't compete. We're going to make something that would just eliminate the guys. I don't know, arson, or the government is the easiest way. The government banning and make it illegal. The same with media. They protect us by making illegal for those guys to send their garbage here, but only we can send the garbage. We could. Right now we have competition and we don't like competition. What does that tell you? All right. Scott Ritter, I think, will be arrested for during the investigation, will be questioned. Hinkle, the same way, and others. It's coming. It's coming more than this. I guarantee you that, 99%. This is my prediction. As a free person, I can have my own gut feelings. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.